people could please sit down. If you could, actually, now that I've asked you to sit down, if you could please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are experiencing, or maybe celebrating, an important historical year this year. 3 weeks and 250 years ago, the men of Woburn's second parish gathered on the lawn of their meeting house, which is still the meeting house of the Congregational Church, and there is a plaque in front of it on a big stone that commemorates this, that they met there and marched off to Lexington. Now, I don't know actually what happened to them then. However, I do know that two men from Woburn, whether any of them were from the second parish or not, were killed in that battle. So that's considered the official beginning of the revolution. However, prior to April 19th, the revolution had actually already begun. And it was triggered in large part by the Intolerable Act from the King, which closed the port of Boston. But more importantly from us, it abolished the Massachusetts Bay Charter, which eliminated local government. And to enforce that act, General Gage abolished town meetings. If you had a town meeting, you were subject to arrest and imprisonment. The general appointed royal agents to essentially take the place of local government and dispatch them to all the towns in Massachusetts. However, by April 19th, they had all been driven out and retreated to Boston, where they were protected by troops. The local town said, no, our local government in our town meeting is that important that we are not putting up with this, and drove them all out. And so you folks sitting here, you are the inheritors of that momentous occasion where town meeting and local government was that important to the people of Massachusetts that they were willing to go to war for it. And I know it's easy for us to sit here and go, oh ho hum, just another town meeting. But I hope now and then you stop and think about our historical foundation, where its abolishment led to a war. And I hope you will always consider preserving this special piece of democracy that we have. So thank you. Okay. Now let's get this meeting going. Let's get rid of our housekeeping amendments, or motions anyway. The moderator would consider a motion that we allow members to vote by standing, that we allow members to attend virtually per the ADA, that we adjourn until Wednesday, May 14th at 7 o'clock, should we not complete our business tonight, and name Bruce Morey as a deputy moderator should I need to recuse myself. Second. All in favor? No, question, hold on. You have to stand first. And once you stand, right, we vote by standing until we accept this motion. So please stand. I know. I ask a lot of you. All right, thank you. Anyone opposed? The motion passes. I'd like to remind people of our basic protocol here at town meeting. No one speaks until they're recognized by the moderator. Should you wish to speak on an article, you raise your hand and you wait until you are recognized. You wait until the microphone gets to you. You wait 5 seconds before saying anything, and hopefully by then the microphone will work. And then please stand and identify yourself, name and precinct, please. As has been the custom lately, is that committees and boards speak through their chair. So there will be one spokesman for each committee and chair that wishes to speak, unless there is a minority report that the chair wishes to recognize. I ask that chairs, when they speak on an article, they cover both sides of the coin. So speak on what the majority has to say, and don't forget the minority. Give them at least a little bit of credence, and then give us the vote on the article. All right. Before I forget, we have to have some people to thank for their efforts tonight, helping out. Cole Wasner, Joanne Zakoba, Chase Jackman, and Joshua Liu. Thank you for your efforts in running microphones and making sure that our sound system works appropriately. Now we need to have Jennifer swear in people who have been elected in the last election.
So I made this easy and threw it up on the slide. If everyone could just raise their right hand and we can do it all together. I Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's move on to Article 1, reports of town officers and committees. Ms. Bond, for the school committee, you have a report on an update on a quick update on the high school.
I just want to get our display up. There it is.
So now it's on this one. You do the next one, the next
This one? Okay. All righty. In January of 2025, I provided you information on what the Burlington High School Building Committee accomplished and provided information on the 5 options that were selected to advance to the preliminary schematic report phase. I'm happy to announce that we have selected a preferred option, AR8. We are entertaining better names for the project, so please email us, contact us any way that you feel comfortable with any idea so we can stop calling it AR8. We are currently in the schematic design process. As you can see, AR8 has changed. It's no longer this big, long point coming out. We changed the design based on feedback that we received. Our goal is to complete the schematic design process by the end of early summer, early fall. End of the summer, early fall. There are many scheduled meetings between now and the end of summer for our many working groups to assist the design team with completing the schematic design. The BHS Building Committee continues with our monthly meetings to review the design. We are in the process of hiring a construction manager to assist with constructability, phasing, logistics, and the cost estimate based on the completed schematic design. Just going to show you a couple. The Building Committee, working with both Tappé, Dorr, and Whittier, have proactively reached out to various committees in town, including Ways and Means and the Select Board, to determine how best to approach the town for funding, which will require debt exclusion. Please visit our website at www.bhbuildingproject.com for additional updates and information. Please submit any questions or opinions there are, as we always are seeking feedback from the community. Our next community meeting will be Thursday, June 29th at 7 p.m. This meeting will be 100% virtual. Our next BHS Building Committee meeting is on June 12th at 6:30 p.m. In conclusion, as the chair of the High School Building Committee, I again want to thank Town Meeting for providing the $1.5 million for the feasibility study. I also want to thank the High School Building Committee and the Burlington High School educators, students, and community members for the many hours of time given to this important project. We're making great progress, and we look forward to providing regular updates to Town Meeting and all town boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bond. Another report now from Mr. Denizio. It's all yours, John.
Thank you, Mr. 5 seconds. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Denizio, Town Administrator. I have some slides for you tonight, and this is meant I just have a couple slides to give you a little bit more detail on what you've already seen in your budget book and a quick summary of the process and how we create the budget book for both the operating budget and the capital budget. And hopefully the message was clear enough for the operating budget and capital budget that you were able to follow along. So I'll do a quick summary. I know there was a lot of backup, but I just have a few quick slides. Next, Jim. So as we begin our budget project process for both the operating and capital, we begin with our overarching budget goals. You won't see them on the screen, but we talk about them every year. It's to invest in our infrastructure. It's to minimize fees wherever we can, plan for our long-term liabilities, and maintain a level of services. In addition to that, beyond the overarching goals, we have some best practices and sort of guiding principles that we use when we're creating it. That's what you're going to see on the screen in front of you. We try to maintain reserve levels that are no less than 10% of our budgeted revenues and expenses. And what our reserves are, you can see their reserves are free cash and stabilization. So check, first one down. We stay on the schedule with our long-term liabilities. And what is that? That's our OPEB funding plan and our funding of our pension system to be fully funded. So this budget accomplishes both of those. And we like to manage our debt level to be in a range that's considered optimum by the rating agencies. And why do we kind of do all these things or have these guiding principles? And it's to, most importantly, to maintain our AAA bond rating, which is so important for us and helps keep our bonding costs our bonding costs low, which is obviously going to be important over the next few years as we borrow some money. So then, with those in mind, we start out by talking about what are our mandatory costs. What are the things that are already sort of baked into the budget? So this is insurance, both employee and town liability insurance, like health insurance, things like that. It's our debt service for bonds that we already have in place and planning for those coming up. This is things like trash removal, special education, transportation, and tuition. Now, these are commonly referred to as accommodated accounts. Everybody here has probably heard us talk about that already, but that's not the only place. These are the accounts where we don't budget them within a department's budget because they're attributed town-wide. So that's why we budget them separate. And then one that might be in a department budget is something like a collective bargaining agreement. That's also what we would consider a mandatory cost. If we have contracts in place, we know what we're going to have to spend, or if like we do this year on the town side, we don't have any contracts in place, we know we have to budget for those and plan for those. And in our budget that's submitted to you, we've already accounted for a proposed settlement with all of our labor unions on the town side. So after that, the process continues, and the next step is for us to look at, we know we've figured out all the mandatory spending, and now we have the discretionary spending, and we take that information and we try to land on a spot of where we can project the guidelines to be for the department budgets of both town side and school side, and sort of what we call discretionary. You can see examples of some of them up there. Things like class size guidelines on the school side, parks and rec programs on the town side, programs for seniors, staffing levels, things like that. So we take all that, and with the number you have in front of you on the screen there is what our total operating budget for FY26 is and what the increase is. Now this, important to note, incorporates all the spending for both sides of the budget. For anything that's going to run through the operating budget is included in that number. That's the all-in number. Gives you a little bit more detail on the revenues expenses. The revenue side has three main components from it. It's the local receipts. These are things like motor vehicle excise taxes, building permits, meals tax, things like that. The next is state aid. This is cherry sheet or undesignated government funding. So this is what we get on the cherry sheets. And the last one is the property taxes. This is the tax levy. Those are the three big buckets. That's where we're going to get our money. For the first time in a while, or the second time in a while, our local receipts number has really started to come back the last couple of years. We're increasing the budget by 10% for the second year in a row. So during COVID, you may remember, we came and we hit the local receipts by $2 million, decrease from revenues and expenses. We had to balance the budget, and that's where we had to do it. And we've, over time, built those accounts back up, and we feel strongly that we are in a good position now. State aid, you'll see we're projecting a very small increase. This is very typical of if there's no formula funding changes, this is a typical increase in local receipts. And then the rest it comes from the tax levy. So the budget as submitted would result in an excess capacity that's untaxed levy. That's, if we were to tax to the max, there would be another $12.4 million in spending in there. So that excess capacity is another lever that the town has to help protect ourselves to any changes in the market. So you can see it's expected to go down a little bit, but that's also because we use conservative new growth estimates, and new growth is stuff that will be taxed on the tax levy for the first time. We use a 1.5% estimate each year as a conservative number. We've typically outperformed that. So anything above that estimate would add back into excess capacity. It's not something that we go and then add into the budget. Next is just a summary on some expenses. We have three basic expense. We have accommodated accounts, which I just talked about. Those are the undistributed. We have the school operating and the town operating. And when we start the budget process in the fall, or the late fall, early winter, we meet with Ways and Means and some elected boards and the finance team and the school department, and we get together and we look at those revenue numbers that we just projected up there. We look at those mandated costs that we had a couple slides ago, and we try to come up with our guideline. And you can see that the accommodated accounts went up 7.6%, and our estimate was somewhere between 7 and 8. Unfortunately, we were closer to the higher side. And then the guidelines for school and town operating was 4.5%, so both were able to come in at that number. Some of the things that drive those numbers up are the same every year. It's health insurance, it's pension, OPEB, debt service, stuff I already talked about. It's the continued inflationary impacts that we've seen over the last few years. You know, supplies just cost more, and we haven't, really increased the budget to keep up with that. And then on the town side, we don't have any collective bargaining agreements. Well, all of our collective bargaining agreements expire this June. And when we get later in town meeting, we have a couple that we have settled for. One of the big drivers of the budget is 75% personnel and benefits. So one thing we look at all the time, and we get pressed hard by both Ways and Means and the Select Board and School Committee, presses those guys, and it's about head count. How many do we need more people? What do we need them for? So you'll see on the town side, there's a net decrease of 0.52 FTEs. So we're going down about a half a position in total. But that's also made up, there are some areas where we needed to address some needs. You'll see on the left side of the scale there that we have a need in the Council on Aging. We have a need for additional outreach hours for our seniors. This is something that isn't new. This is one of the effects of COVID, that we're just not keeping up with the outreach to our seniors and making sure there's a touch point there. The second need is in our HR department. We have a very outdated human resource structure or model, if you will, where we only have 2 full-time people that deal with HR throughout the whole town. So we have over 1,000 full-time employees and hundreds of seasonal employees, and we do it with an admin on the town side and a director that works half on the town side, or a little more than half on the town side and a little less than half on the school side. And then they steal some time from some other folks on the school side. So you'll see that we're asking for a 0.4 HR director on the town side, but in total it will be a full. We're looking for a director level on the town side, a director level on the school side. We just can't continue to operate on the system that's been in place. And then the last thing on the increase side is a communications director or communications officer. An effective communications between local government and its residents requires, in order to build trust and transparency, it needs professionalized communications. We don't have any centralized or professional, well, I should say we don't have any centralized communications. We don't have one person that's kind of driving that bus, and most importantly, getting to communicate with people where they are. How do they want to get communicated with? Everybody knows that social media has pretty much taken over communications, for better or worse. But there are lots of other ways to communicate too, and we need to be able to have somebody that's kind of driving that bus for all departments and helping out in all those areas. Next is capital. So you can see, hopefully you were able to follow along with the message in the capital book, but that was pretty much just for FY26. And if you were looking at the screen, that's what the pictures are there for. They're kind of the bigger categories of where we were spending the money in FY26. And those are the funding sources where we're getting it. It's Chapter 90, which we'll have a separate article for. It's the free cash, which is not only our pay-as-you-go capital, which is Article 4, but also a few other articles that between administration and select board and the finance team and Ways and Means that we recommended using free cash for some of those. So you can see the totals there. It's town hall. Annex is a HVAC thing, there's about $5 million in water and sewer, 1.4 million in roadway repairs, and you can read the other ones. Additionally, there's, if you were to look at that long, crazy pullout in the back that we have every year in your budget book, you'll see a list of 10 years' worth of requests. And on there, that is really sort of, that used to at one point be our sort of capital plan, and it was things that were on our debt schedule, things we've committed to doing at a certain time were sort of listed there. Now it's more of just a request list because of the sheer volume of it. It's the administration and Ways and Means and Select Board have sort of committed to making an ad hoc group that can kind of attack that and do a better job at presenting it. But what's in there, if you were to look at those next 10 years, you're going to see there's about $9 million of vehicle or equipment replacements over the next 10 years. That's average, that's $900,000 a year. That's around what we're doing now. That's not too bad. We can understand that one. There's about $50 or $48 million worth of water and sewer projects over 10 years. Now, we're probably not going to do them all over 10 years, but they're on the list. We need to be able to plan for them and slot them in the right spots. There's the traditional road paving for 15 or 18 million. That's road paving gets 3.5 million every other year, and then also gets that Chapter 90 money. There's, 385 million for new or renovated schools with between the potential for a Burlington High School, there's a potential for a Shawsheen School. We're going to owe some portion of that. And then there's, on the list is an addition and a feasibility study for Pine Glen several years out. So, as I said, it's sort of morphed from our debt service kind of plan to now it's all of our capital requests that we know are coming up. I think everybody has done a good job and was worried that they were going to miss something. So everything that they've talked about with their departments has a spot on the request list, and now it's going to be up to the administration and some of the elected and appointed boards to kind of put it in a better, more usable plan going forward. So what are the headwinds? What keeps us up at night? It's sort of the continued, the construction market and just the lack of permits that are out there. It's the same one we've been talking about for many years, office space and empty parking lots. Is there going to be less federal funding or not? Where are we going to land on that? And sort of the inflation that's been affecting us for several years now. Have we sort of come in to the end of that, or is that going to continue too? So I just wanted to give a couple of quick slides. Hopefully all of that, none of that is new. You've seen it in your book. And I just want to thank everybody for their support. Thank you for the time. And then I want to thank the finance team, especially for helping get all the materials together this year. We were down a couple people. And a special thanks to Sam Hockenberry, who, if you don't know him, he's the guy sitting up the front staring at the screen all meeting. But if you do know him, you'll know he's the Swiss Army knife for the finance team. So I just want to thank him too. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Okay. I forgot to mention it when we started, but these two sections are reserved for town meeting members. So town meeting members, if you want me to count your vote, you need to be in one of these two sections. Any resident who wishes to speak on something, it would be good if you let me know about it so I know to look for you. And now we will move on to Article 2, which is the operating budget. 4th of July? Oh, we have another report that we haven't met. Oh, that's right. We have a report I almost missed. 4th of July committee. Wait 5 seconds.
Count to 5. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
And like magic, it works. Good evening, everybody. Nick Priest, Select Board, Chair of the 4th of July Committee. Bill gave me 5 minutes, so I'm gonna do my best to keep it to that and not bore this body. But I wanted to take a moment to discuss the parade, given the unique circumstances that are surrounding us this year. So I appreciate the time. I also recognize that I'm speaking from a position of privilege. The 4th of July Committee is a resident-run committee, not run by the Select Board. It just so happens that for the last 10-ish plus years, a Select Board member has been on the committee, affording us, I guess, easier access to town government. Yeah, so unfortunately the parade's gonna be canceled this year, for those of you who may not have heard. It's super unfortunate, and a decision that we did not come to lightly. We canceled it for a couple of reasons. One, the obvious one, is that 3A is under construction. And a lot of folks might say, well, it's already started. It'll be done by July 4th, right? There's no guarantee. The state's doing the project. So we'll see, you know. But we didn't want to have to commit relatively $40,000 to then not have a parade. So it was a really hard decision to have to make. Every year, for at least the recent history of the parade, this body has allocated a certain number of funds to the parade committee to allow us to put the parade on. And we are fantastically appreciative of what this body does for the committee. The last few years, it's been $20,000 for those of you who are new, and that funds about half the parade. This is just the parade we're talking about, mind you. This is not fireworks. Last year we priced out fireworks, and to do fireworks on June 30th, it would have cost just $16,000. So supply, demand, 4th of July, big time for fireworks. The other reason that we had to unfortunately cancel was because we are down to a committee of 4 people. 3 of whom are in this room, 1 of whom is not even a resident of the town. He lives in Billerica. And he graciously donates his time to the town of Burlington to help support the parade. It takes a lot to put the parade on over the course of the year. You know, fundraising efforts. Nicole Dupuy was huge in that and had to take a step back, you know, which leaves us a person down. Participant, you know, outreach and organization. These are things that don't just happen a month prior to the parade. They happen all year long. And it's how we make the parade successful every year. We have visions of grandeur to grow the parade, but we can't do that with 4 people. And so I guess my ask is, if you or someone you know is capable of volunteering time to the committee, you can reach out to us at burlington.july4th@gmail.com. You can reach out to my Gmail account. We have a website which is currently down because we have to adjust funding to, you know, up the, whatever you call it, subscription. But yeah, we want to keep this parade going. It's a fantastic turnout, rain or shine. People come out and we love it. We love walking the parade. We love putting it together. So my ask is that, you know, going forward, if you or anyone you know can volunteer some time throughout the year, please reach out to us. We would greatly appreciate it because we want to make sure that the residents of Burlington can maintain this parade. So I appreciate the time. Mr. Moderator, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Priest. Yes, Ms. Angelo. Wait for a mic, please, Pat.
Okay, Pat Angelo, Precinct 5. Based on the numbers and the percentages and everything that we have been given, John, this is probably a question for you. What will be the average tax increase, you know, on the average house in Burlington, if we go with the recommendations from Ways and Means?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So, Ms. Angelo, that's sort of a calculation that there's too many factors that we don't know yet, but one good marker, as you can see, that the tax levy growth will be about 5.7%, so you could sort of use that for an estimator, but there's too many factors that go into there about the tax rate shift and values and things like that, so it's too premature. but that's a good estimator of,
But-
you could use 5%.
But if we go on the recommendations of Ways and Means, usually we're given a number, like an approximate, how much the taxes will go up on the average house in Burlington.
Yep, thank you. So I think we typically see about between a $200 and $300 increase that on our average spending. This is a little at the top of that for what our average has been. So that's around what we're estimating. But again, there's going to be too many factors to give you an exact number.
Okay, so it could go over $300?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Denizio. Okay, we're going to move on to Article 2, which is the operating budget. And just to remind people how we deal with this, we do this as a consent article. I will go through a list of all the departments. I will give the amount and the percent change. If anyone wishes to hold it for further discussion, you have to yell out hold, and we will put that aside. Once we go through the entire list, those that have not been held, we will vote as one. And then we will subsequently go back to those budgets that were held and deal with them individually. Okay? Mr. Pearson.
Monty Pearson, Precinct 3. I'd like to know when we can put a hold on the capital budget, the one that's in the back of the booklet. Traditionally, we have not been given the opportunity to have a discussion of it, and I believe that there was a consensus that we could go ahead and start doing that this spring. So traditionally, the moderator has not mentioned the 10-year plan, and I just wanted to know when you were going to bring that up so I could say hold.
It's not included in the warrant.
It's not included in the warrant?
Correct. And if it's not in the warrant, I can't bring it up.
So if it's not part of the warrant, why is it part of the operating budget packet that we have?
I don't know what you're talking about, Monty, so Mr.
the
Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I think the chance to talk about all of the capital items come up when Article 4, and then those that are proposed for this year. So FY26 articles are in the warrant, and in the backup, we have traditionally given a 5 or 10-year report in the back. None of that is being asked to be funded this year. The only things that are asked to be funded this year are those that are included in the warrant for FY26. So there's nothing that's in that back pullout that is being proposed for funding beyond FY26.
Well, I was of the opinion from last September that the 10-year budget was going to be reviewed in some way so that town meeting would know ahead of time what things were coming up upon us. A number of people were unhappy with the way in which large projects came upon us all at once together, and we thought that it would be good if the town meeting had a chance to review the 10-year plan. Is that going to happen, or is that not going to happen? If you remember, there was a discussion of this in September.
Yes, I remember there was a discussion.
Okay.
I suppose it would be incumbent upon Mr. Denizio to talk about, in a broad sense, what the capital budget is. but we are not going to get into a discussion on it nor a vote on it. But since that is not planned for now, I will ask Mr. DiZio to be prepared on Wednesday to talk about an overall capital budget for a couple minutes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, here we go down the list of our operating budget line items. Town meeting and reports, $29,875, an increase of 87.80%. Legislative committees, $11,017, 0% increase. Department 122, Select Board and Town Administrator, $1,133,479, a 7.45% increase. Town Accountant, $546,443, a 3.39% increase. Assessors, $486,320, a 2.15% increase. Treasurer Collector, $782,242, a decrease of 2.77%. I don't have the page numbers. You're going to have to follow in the book. All right, where was I? Treasurer, okay. Department 149, unemployment compensation, $100,000, 0% increase. Chapter 32B, benefits, $18,513,777, 7.85%. Hold. Medicare, $1,550,000, 5.44% increase. Transfer to OPEB, $1,216,666, an increase of 9.3%. Town insurance, $1,700,000, an increase of 13.33%. Financial services, $70,000, levels of spending. Central supply, $145,000, an increase of 3.57%. Central machine, $30,000, 2.7% increase. Legal, $230,000, an increase of 13.86%. Hold on legal. Human resources, $261,597, 29.14% increase. MIS, $900,757, an 8.45% increase. Town clerk, $501,532, a decrease of 13.06%. Board of Registrars, $17,150, an increase of 3%. Conservation, $313,411, a decrease of 4.24%. Planning, $451,458, a decrease of 10.17%. Board of Appeals, $13,731, level funding. Town facilities, $100,663, an increase of 0.98%. Police, $10,583,902, an increase of 0.26%. Fire, $10,291,352, an increase of 0.24%. Hold on fire. Building, $763,168, an increase of 2.16%. Sealer of weights and measures, $17,831, an increase of 3.25%. Emergency management, $13,600, level funding. School operating budget, $67,601,202, an increase of 4.5%. Hold on the school budget. Special education, $16,266,011, an increase of 6.97%. Shawshene assessment, $3,069,215, an increase of 9.59%. Hold on Shawshene. Essex Tech, $62,000, a decrease of 45.02%. Minuteman Tech, zero budget this year. DPW operating budget, $11,989,857, an increase of 6.11%. Rubbish and garbage, $3,423,041, an increase of 3.58%. Streetlights, $360,500, level funding. DEP assessment, $15,000, level funding. Board of Health operating, $836,133, an increase of 2.02%. Hazardous Waste Collection Program, $50,000, level funding. Mosquito control, $50,700, an increase of 10.84%. Council on Aging, $519,974, an increase of 11.14%. Was that a hold? Hold on Council on Aging. Veteran Services, $301,605, an increase of 0.77%. Youth and Family Services, $601,297, an increase of 0.87%. Disability Access Commission, $11,379, an increase of 1.75%. Library, $1,934,576, an increase of 2.96%. Historical Commission. Oh, we don't want recreation anyway, do we? I'm sorry. Okay, recreation. Didn't mean to miss you. $2,309,089, an increase of 3%. Historical Commission, $10,430, an increase of 4.05%. Debt service, $9,449,631, an increase of 7.72%. Reserve Fund, $200,000, level funding. Middlesex Retirement, $15,210,846, an increase of 6.43%. Negotiated settlements, $1,100,000, an increase of, good. Local transportation, $150,000, increase of 50%. Technology infrastructure refresh, $70,000, an increase of 75%. What did I say? 700,000, an increase of 75%. Most of these look like they're going to take some discussion, except for maybe town meeting and reports. Who had a question on that?
You can vote for all the unheld items. You can vote for all the unheld items.
I'm going to see if I can put this one into the unheld category. Question on the town meeting and reports. Mr. Ruffield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. I'm just wondering why, in terms of percentages, such a big jump.
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So what we're doing here is we're trying to attempt to right-size this budget for all the changes that have happened over the last few years, for the folks that have to come and work it, and the professional AV staff that we have to put out. And as you all noticed, that the backup materials has kept getting bigger and bigger. Even though we do have some folks that get it electronically, that's great. But basically what we had to do is now, we used to just account for, basically the check-in person and maybe a couple of mic runners. But now we have some technology folks that have to work. And we're trying to make sure we account for all of that so we can pay for it and have the budget to do it. So this isn't, one thing this doesn't include any changes for full hybrid or remote meeting, and it does not include anything for clicker systems or anything like that. This just takes into account having the check-in person for a couple hours each night. We assume maybe 7 nights. That's, not the highest we've ever done, but it's probably an average. We assume two mic runners for 4 hours for 7 nights, a tech person, the AV people, and then also the professional AV staff that we have to hire to come do it. And like I said, then sort of right-sizing what now the printing costs are for both the budget book, the backup materials, and this also is for the annual report too.
Mr. Rutfield, does that satisfy your hold? Or do you want to vote on this separately?
I'm also wondering, how do we manage up to this point? We had such a small budget last
Hold on.
All right, we'll hold it for discussion. Thank you.
All right. So if we just had such a small budget for the last year, but we still managed to get, some the AV help we needed, we've been functioning. So I'm just wondering,
All right.
what do we need this extra money to change versus what happened versus what we have now?
We will hold this budget and discuss it separately. Thank you. I thought we could kill it easily. Okay, do we have a total for the unheld numbers? All right. $1,701,800.
Compared to what I have.
1,701.
1701.
Okay, for the unheld budgets, their total is $81,701,800. Any questions on that number? Seeing none, we'll vote on that. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's go back to the held items. Town meeting and reports. Mr. Rutfield, go ahead with what your issue is.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. So you're asking for, an 87.8 increase to get all that stuff, which I agree we need, but we already have it. So I'm just trying to understand, up to this point, were you pulling that money from other sources up to this point, and now you kind of want to straighten it all out into this category?
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, that's exactly it, Mr. Rutfeld. For a couple of years, we've been spending past that number for a few years now, but it was, it's because this accommodation, and we would come to Ways and Means at the end of the year for a transfer to cover that. But now that the changes weren't temporary, they've become more permanent, so now we just want to account for them and have the money in place rather than have to try to figure out where we can get the money or ask Ways and Means for an end-of-year transfer.
Mr. Wood. Mr. Wood, excuse me, yes. Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. The question I have on line 16 for the Chapter 32B benefits, who's covered?
Wait a minute, we haven't got to that one.
Oh, isn't that what you're just talking about?
We are talking about town meeting and reports.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was concluded. Sorry.
No, we haven't voted on it yet. Any further questions on town meeting and reports? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. The next held budget is unemployment compensation, Chapter 32B benefits, $18,513,777, 7.85% increase. That is on page 49, or 48 and 49 of your budget book. Questions on this? Mr. Wood? I'll make him ask it again.
Groundhog Day. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. I just wanted to know, under that benefits formula, who's covered?
Mr. Denizio?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So, Mr. Woods, that would be all employees throughout the town. Specifically for health insurance, that's one part of this budget. All employees throughout the town and school that work more than 20 hours are benefit eligible and could be eligible to have health insurance through the town. Now, not everyone does, but you are eligible at 20 hours.
And do you cover retirees under this benefit?
Correct.
And how many of those people are covered?
Going to ask Mr. Giannino, who I know has that figure with them, so if you'd be right.
Mr. Giannino, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We have 764 retirees between the town and school.
And do we have a trend number in terms of how much that goes up every year in terms of retirees going on to the, that portion of the benefit?
This past year, it had probably increased over 5%, 6%. Last year, there was somewhat of a decrease. There were some changes in the Medicare rules that pushed some of the costs to the insurance companies, and so they've had a rise in their costs.
So we could anticipate within 5 years that there will be more retirees on the plan than actives?
In 2024, we had 759. In 2023, we had 763. And we're anticipating in 2025 to have 764. So it's sort of constant. It's not a jumping number.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Further questions on this item? Mr. DiTucci, down here, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dan DiTucci, Precinct 6. What percentage of the health insurance is covered by the taxpayers for retirees and also for current employees? I believe it was talked about years ago, but I can't remember what it is now.
For active, if I may, Mr. Moderator, thank you. Active employees, it's 70% from the town, 30% for the employee. For retirees, it's been over the last 20 years, we've changed it from 90-10 to 85-15 to 80-20 down to 70-30. For newer retirees, right now, in the last year, we've probably averaged at around the 20% rate.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead.
What are we legally obligated as a town to pay for both retirees and current employees?
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass General Law requires a minimum of 50%.
For both. So we could technically go down to just covering 50% for both if we needed to.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Ms. Angelo.
Pat Angelo, Precinct 5, to Gary. Guess what I'm going to ask for? Yeah. I want the report that you usually have on the table. Could we have that Wednesday night?
Yes, that's my apologies for not copying it today.
I'm sorry I didn't call you before like I usually do.
No, I have it prepared. I just didn't copy it. So. There was not any new people adding on to that program.
Further questions on this? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? The article passes. Next held budget, transfer to OPEB, $1,216,666, an increase of 9.3%. That is also on page 58 and 59 of your budget book. Who had a question on this? Who held it? Mr. Woods? And then we'll get to Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. What was the return of investment on that fund for past year?
For the past year, calendar year, for the last full year was 9.51%. Year to date, calendar year is 5.06. Since the inception, we're at about 7.94 to 8% return.
And what's the actuarial assumption used to calculate these benefits?
We're at a
interest rate that the
7% discount rate we're using.
7%?
Yes.
Okay. And the increase, the 9% increase is due to what factor or factors?
When the program was set up, there was a 9.83% increase built into each year to get us to get to fully paid in 2046. So this is a continuation of the same plan where we will have an actuarial report available probably in January for the year end December 31st, 2024. We do a actuarial report every 2 years. We do a GASB report every fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roger Bell, Precinct 6. So can you give us just an overall of OPEB for those people who may not have the information, who are new here or just on over the last year, so that we can get a background on it and how it's affecting our budget going forward?
OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. It is outside of the pension. It's for unfunded insurance liability going forward. It was calculated, as I stated, on an actuarial basis, and we have an unfunded liability of approximately $114 million at this point. We keep paying that. The goal was to pay this, get it down to zero in 2046. We're continuing to work towards that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, go ahead. Sorry, John. Mr. Cormier.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Cormier, Precinct 6. If I may, through the moderator, Gary, this was set up many years ago. It's kind of it's somewhat frustrating because we're going to get the actuarial after we vote on this, which is kind of frustrating because it would be nice to read through and find out exactly some of the more detailed nuances to whether this is something that we should revisit funding at a 9% level, returns on it and otherwise, and some of the other things that go along with it. I was part of the actual setup of this account when it happened 10 plus years ago. I've regretted it since. I've always felt that it was kind of annoying that in the private sector, we're not guaranteed anything, but yet we're guaranteeing certain benefits to others where our tax money is basically being put towards this funding. So it's always kind of aggravated me that there's, we tend to guarantee things that normally we as the average taxpayer sitting in here tonight don't get. I've always kind of scratched my head on that one, but town meeting opted to vote in favor of it. One of the things that I did speak to at the time, different administrations, obviously, but the overriding factor on the OPEB was the health insurance. I'm assuming that is still correct today, as kind of the elephant in the room, and how to actually rein in some of the additional costs would be to address some of the health insurance issues, the split, and some additional costs. So I guess I'm curious as to what, I've asked this many times as well, what are we doing in order to rein in some of those costs and bring them down? So this can be, because if, my recollection again was we weren't supposed to stretch it out to 2046. It was actually supposed to be earlier on some of those actuarials, and because of other costs, it's been pushed out. On top of the fact that as town meeting members, we're going to sit there and vote in favor for 6, I believe, roughly 5 plus full-time equivalents to this budget, and that adds to the OPEB. And yet this body is responsible for the taxpayer money, and we need to be a little bit more cognizant over all those decisions we make in regards to these additional staffing levels. And it does have ramifications in some of these other areas, such as OPEB. So I'm wondering exactly what are we doing right now to start reining in some of those costs, because this is, it's just a weight around, the taxpayer's neck.
Mr. Giannino.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The eligibility for health insurance was changed in, I believe, 2021. As town administrator commented, it's full-time employees at this point, over 20 hours. So there was a reduction of some people, elected officials, who no longer put onto that health insurance. So that's been slowly decreasing as people have left office and new people have come in. We continue to monitor our costs. We're self-insured, as you know, from a health insurance standpoint. Costs are increasing rapidly. Over the last 3 years, 4 years. I think some of it was COVID related. We saw a large dip in 21, but those costs are continuing to increase. We have an insurance advisory committee. We talk with the administration to review the existing policies we have, but we don't control the cost. Right now, we're looking into some of the hospitals that are, what are they charging for procedures? What are they allowing for costs? And we are actively looking to see if we have some alternatives to curb some of those costs.
Follow up, Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead, Mr. Cormier.
The only reason I say that, Gary, is that, again, in the private sector, our health insurance changes all the time, it seems. These companies reassess everything and make decisions that unfortunately sometimes fall on the employees, be it deductibles and whatnot, but it's a way to rein in some of those costs involved. And I guess and no one wants to sit there and burden anybody, with additional costs like that. But again, in the private sector, we have to deal with that all the time. And more so myself, because of my condition, there's a substantial amount of money that I got to sit there and fork over every time I want to get a new prosthesis, and it hurts. I just, again, I don't want to put additional burdens on people, but I have to do that. Plus, my tax money is going towards these substantial increases with OPEB every year. I think that we really need to be doing a better job to address this particular item in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cormier. Any further comments, questions on OPEB? Mr. Rutfield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. Would like to remind everyone that, generally speaking, private sector pays better, but people still are interested in the public work because they get the better benefits. You start getting the benefits, then nobody gets the public sector. So that's one of the reasons why we should probably keep these benefits in place. People are willing to stay there. They like the stability, even if it means a little bit of a lower salary. So we should keep that in mind when we start worrying about, well, the private sector, they do this. And I'm like, yeah, you take the higher salary in the private sector. I get a decent salary in the private sector too. I could also get told I'm getting laid off tomorrow. That's the difference between private and public. Start cutting the public from their advantages, then we start losing all the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Rutfield. Anything further? We're not getting into whether this is an appropriate benefit or not. That really should have been discussed under the Chapter 32B benefits. This is just OPEB money is just what we have to pay to take care of our liability that we already have. And whether we supply or change health insurance is not going to change our liability. So, Mr. Young, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hopefully this will apply. I brought this up at one of the, Bob Young, Precinct 3. I brought this up at one of the prep meetings, and interested to what this gentleman just said. I have lived in this state, born in this state, seen a lot, and there was not too long ago, quite clearly, people that work for towns, cities, counties, or the state government, it was understood that they did not maybe get a higher salary, but they did get benefits. And what I brought up the other night is it's just changed. Now, we're getting it on both ends. They want the high pay, and they want the good benefits, and what the private sector doesn't get is they get a pension.
All right.
And so,
Mr. Young,
anyway.
let's wrap it up. This really isn't the point for this,
Okay.
this discussion.
All right, Mr. Moderator, I think I've said enough, but I made my point. Thank you, sir.
Anything further on whether we should be paying off our liability or not? Seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? Motion carries. Town insurance, $1,700,000, an increase of 13.33%. This is also on page 49, I believe. Who held it? Mr. Woods?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. I just wanted an explanation for the increase. I did read the paragraph. Just wondering what components of the coverage that this provides saw the biggest increase.
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this is both towns' blanket liability insurance and workers' comp insurance. And basically the reason for us is we've had 5 pretty bad claim years. And when we bid it every year, we get less and less folks bidding on it. And you have to provide your claims history when you send out your bids. And we just haven't had a great run lately. So that's the biggest factor. Experience.
Anything further? Seeing nothing, let's vote on this. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Article passes. The next held item is legal at $230,000, an increase of 13.86%. On page 50 in your book. Ms. Saltman, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Myrna Saltman, Precinct 2. In examining the budgets, which are beautifully laid out, years past, we would get a sheet that would tell us what department heads were earning. They were in categories. And I searched high and low yesterday, and I could not find such a listing. If I'm missing it, would you please tell me where I might find it? Otherwise, when I look at every department, the department heads and all the other well-established people in these offices, all the salaries are lumped together so that we do not know what our department heads are earning. If that's available, where would I find it? Thank you.
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. That's not in the budget book, Myrna, but we can get it up for the back on Wednesday, or we can have the clerk email it out. You're talking about the A&P salary schedule?
Okay, questions on the legal? Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Roger Bell, Precinct 6. So what, in fact, has increased the legal on our end to make this a larger budget item?
Mr. Denizio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So there's been, so our legal budget, that $230,000, is comprised of 4 basic categories that all roll up into one. It's our general counsel, which is Attorney Mead. We have Labor Counsel, which is another firm, and then we have a small amount for cable contracts and tax title, something, just small amounts for those because they're not every year. But the bulk of it is in with general counsel, and basically with the turnover we're having in department heads and the knowledge, the institutional knowledge loss, that with losing a long-term clerk, we're about to lose treasurer, town administrator. So what we basically did, we budget for just under about 600 hours for general counsel, and we budgeting for 700.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bob Young, Precinct 3. We were just told that we didn't do very well over the last few years, lost some cases in insurance, and our rates went up. What I'd like to know is, you have 2 different firms that you're working with. When was the last time you went out to bid to, and I'm not saying they're not doing good work at all, but I'm just saying I know a number of years ago, a lot of law firms were starting to have their business looked at very seriously by the business community. And this is moving up quite a bit. So when was the last time they would bid out in the public for a response? See what we could get.
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Young, 2 different things. The insurance are claims. Doesn't have anything to do with our council. Those aren't cases we lost. Those are, us running into things or having water leaks or things like that. We bid our, I don't know about Labor Counsel. We bid General Counsel when Paul first started, and we're extremely happy with both. But again, doesn't have anything to do with those claims we're talking about. Those are actual losses.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion. I didn't mean that. What I was talking about was the increase. If I understood you correctly, you said you bid, and I'm not saying you're not unhappy with this person, and I don't have a reason to be either, but that still doesn't make the point that it should be bid. Now, just to qualify, you said, if I heard you correctly, the last time you went out was when Paul first got here as town administrator?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So it's important to note you did that. You don't have to bid legal counsel. It's not required to bid. And in fact, it's not done often when you have one that you like a lot. And the increase doesn't have to do with a cost increase in the per hours. It has to do with the number of hours we're budgeting to protect ourselves from having some fairly new department heads. Okay. And the knowledge, the institutional knowledge loss of losing someone like Amy or Gary or so forth.
Well,
so it isn't an increase in pricing. It's an increase in us planning to use more hours.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave it at this. I feel or understand, either in personal or business or the town, that we get bids on the services, and whether we like them or not, or institutional knowledge, is still a good idea to find out if we can get a better price. Thank you.
Further questions on the legal budget? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It carries. Human Resources, $261,597, a 29.14% increase. This is on, actually, on your next page, page 51 in your book. Who held it? Question? Don't be shy. Any questions? Seeing none? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next held budget, Fire Department, Department 220. $10,291,352, an increase of 0.24%. Page 74 in your budget book. Who held it? Who has a question? Mr. Boyven.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Boyven, Precinct 1. The question is not about the small percentage increase, but it's about the overtime amount. I had the same question several years in a row. I look at the overtime and compare it to other staffed departments. DPW had overtime of $380,000 for 66 staff. Police had $643,000 for 111 staff, and the fire department $1.4 million for 73 staff. And that breaks down to DPW $5,700 per staff member, police $5,700, and fire department $19,000. And I know it has been stated that it was due to illness and injury. Are we having an exceptional number of illnesses and injuries? How are we doing on increasing the staff, full-time staff? That's been stated that they're working on that the last couple of years, but the overtime numbers just don't seem to come down.
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill, I think I've said the same thing to you for a couple of years now, so it's not going to surprise you that it's not exactly apples to apples with the other departments. What the crux of this with us, on top of the injuries and illnesses which happen in every department, is the fire department in their contract. They have the language where we have minimum staffing levels for each shift. So on each shift, there's 15 people assigned, and the minimum for each shift is 13. So when we have someone that's out injured or ill and someone that's taking a regular vacation day or personal day or what have you, or as a way of training, we have to fill that overtime. So it's very likely that every single shift has an overtime on it. So it does have a lot to do with injuries and illness. I'm not going to discount that. And that's something we hope is going to get better. The other part, it being a contract issue with the minimum manning, is a safety thing. So the way to fix that is to have more folks on each shift so that when people are out or injured, then you don't have to fill every overtime. So I hope that answered your question.
I mean, you talked about minimum staffing in each shift. Does the police department have the same thing?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's not exactly the same. So in the contract for fire, it doesn't matter where you are or what you do for a job when you're out. You got to be refilled at the minimum level. For instance, at DPW, if someone's out, they don't bring in somebody on overtime to replace them that day. They're just out. At police, it may be, depending on what the person does. If they work on a shift, they may be replaced. But if it's a command officer or someone that isn't on the road at all times, they might not need to replace them for that shift.
Okay, I just still don't think it justifies the disparate difference between the two. You know, it's a factor of 2 per person in overtime.
Anything further on this? Seeing nothing. Put it to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, held budget. School operating. $67,601,202, an increase of 4.5%. I don't know where it is in the book. I'll find it. But anyway, who had a question? Page 82 in your book. Who had a question on this? Who held it? School budget. It's on page 82. Department number 300. Okay, questions. Ms. Nash, you had a question? And then I'll get to Ms. Wang. No, hold on. See. Let Millie go first.
Precinct 3. I have two questions, actually, that deal with the transportation budget, because I've been on a number of transportation committees, and one of the things that I have always respected in Burlington is that we don't charge kids to ride the buses. We don't charge them to play sports. I think that is one of the things that makes us great. But in the last 2 committees, which were transportation committees I've been on, we discovered that at the middle school and the high school, the number of students who ride the buses are 50%, and I suspect if you have had the misfortune of being around the elementary schools at either beginning or closing times, you realize that our transportation for getting kids to school requires so many cars that it practically is gridlock for a couple of hours of the day. But what concerns me is when I keep saying, well, what do we do about it? I have been told that we are required to have a seat for every student at the school, so that it looks like very often there are very few kids, particularly on the high school bus, where there are 7 or 9 buses that go around twice every day. So my question is, and maybe to town council or someone can tell me, is this in fact something that we are legally required to do? Or is it something that we're doing that we maybe should think about? There could be a better way to do the transportation for the schools than to have buses which are without kids in them, while even when we're planning a new school building, we're making sure we have a parking lot for the kids who drive their cars. It seems like this is one area where we need to think. So my first question is, what is it that requires us? Is there some legal basis for this? Are we locked into it by a state law? Is it in our charter? Could somebody answer that question?
Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ms. Nash, for the 18 buses that we use for regular transportation, we're not required to provide a seat for every student. There are different levels of service. The requirement from our perspective is that's the school committee expectation, is that every student will have a seat if they decide to use the seat. There are situations where students are mandated to be transported, but I don't believe that's what you're speaking about.
No, I think it is something we should think about. The second thing, which I would like to know a little bit more about because it impacts transportation, is that on the most recent transportation, we talked about safe routes to schools. And actually, the Fox Hill began that program, but I haven't heard anything about it. And I wondered, what is the situation with the Safe Routes for Schools, which is a way to get elementary kids to school safely without having so many people driving to the school? And I would like to know how it is at Fox Hill and have other schools. The elementary, you can only do this through the middle school. Have any of the other schools done it? And I would like an update because these seem to bear on the traffic and the transportation. And I think that's a key issue to making our town better, and we need to explore, maybe we need a better way to do it. So if I could have the question about safe routes, I would like that.
Sure, no problem. Hi, Ms. Nash. We actually have the walk, bike, and roll to school. We moved it from last week with MCAS and terrible weather, so this Wednesday Fox Hill is participating and Memorial is participating. Francis Wyman and Pine Glen opted not to it was supposed to be last week because of MCAS, but they're all partner schools, so they're all able to hold them. Safe Routes goes up to the high school now, actually, so we can hold any of those days. All of the PTOs are, which is middle and below, are member schools. At the high school, Mr. Sullivan has the details, but we were looking for like a student club because there's a car-free day or things like that, but we'd need kind of a group at the high school to pick that up. But all of our schools are partner schools. The police department is I forget what it's called, but like a community partner as well. So they come to all the events. The police department held the bike rodeo this year, and all those get us the points on the Safe Routes to School. And then we did win 2 years ago a grant at Fox Hill, and then we are kind of earning the points and getting deeper and deeper into the program to hopefully I would say in the next couple years, win one of the sidewalk grants, which is the $2 to $5 million ones, which the DPW would love to have for our sidewalk programs. But that's the Safe Routes update.
Thank you, and I have to say Melissa deserves a lot of the credit because she not only sat in on our virtual meetings, but came to the Selectman's office and was very instrumental. And it sounds like these kind of things, I think, could really make a difference in the quality of the town and the cost reduction in transportation. So thank you. Thank you.
Before we get into too many details on the schools, I want to remind town meeting that the schools have bottom line authority. We can only change the bottom line or discuss the bottom line, what they have for line items to come up with their budget. Whether we reduce them or eliminate them or not, it has no bearing on how the school system spends their money because that has no bearing on how they spend their money. So let's stick to the budget numbers, please. Mr. DiTucci. Ms. Nash, you'll have to wait. You've already had one shot.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dan DiTucci, Precinct 6. Do we contact the parents that are going to be bringing their kids into school in September? Do we contact them to find out who will be taking the bus and who will not be taking the bus? Because usually it's the same people all the time, but at least if you have that ahead of time, when you go through the bus contract, you can say, this is how many people we think are going to be using the transportation. And if you want to add 5 or 10% to it, that would be fine. But I think that would help a lot because Millie's right. I see the buses and they're empty, Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Kuna.
Yes, every single year we do send out a notification to parents and ask who will be driving their students. We got about 300 students on average the past 3 years. There's 3,600 children in the district, so you can take away a large percentage of high school drivers as well. So we do transport about 2,000 kids every single day. The 50% number is a low number. I would say maybe in the afternoon on some of the high school and middle schools when there's clubs that are running or athletics, then you may see reduced numbers. But we pay a daily rate for busing. In the morning, those buses are what I would call full, so maybe at the high school because children are larger, we would have 2 or 3 kids in a seat, whereas in the elementary and middle, we tend to put 3 kids in a seat. But again, in the afternoons, you know, obviously depending on the day, you can see some numbers. So if you're basing it off on that, then I would say let's look at a different day or look at it in the morning, and you'll see that the buses are utilized.
Ms. Wang.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Z. Wang from Precinct 5. Since we're talking about transportation, Bob is correct, because both my kids are in middle school, and every morning their bus is full. And then in the afternoon, some of their friends like doing after-school activities, then they don't get on the bus. Of course, their parents pick them up. And I'm just saying, like, I never seen their bus empty in the morning, just so you guys know. And also, Mr. Kuna does send out the survey every year to, you know, let us know if you guys are not taking it, and just fill it out, you know. Well, I have a different question. Let me see. Come to the supplies and other operational materials. I remember last year, the year before, we had more like specific details. This year, I couldn't find it anywhere. And does this include the high school textbook? If it does, then do all the high school kids take a copy of, say, algebra, geometry, science book home, like the middle school student do? And also, if not, why not? Because I'm old school. I believe textbooks are very helpful come to like higher education, more complicated like courses. And also, like, our parents can help the kids with anything they don't understand, or find tutors, or, you know, it's like I think, yes, we have like online materials, but on the other hand, it's very difficult for kids to get help at home without textbook. So I'm just wondering if this is included. Thank you.
Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Students have a choice today, so they can either have electronic copy of the textbook, which many of them choose, or we will also provide a textbook, a paper copy of the textbook for any student who wants that. Nicole, you said the high school textbook budget is $20,000, and that is in the budget. So so it's really both now. We try to do both and for the students who, however learning style they have.
Follow up, go ahead, Z. Wait for a microphone, please.
For, Dr. County, for what subject, like what kind of textbook we're offering this year?
I'm not sure we're purchasing any set of textbooks at the high school level, but what classes you're talking about would be math classes would have both online and regular textbooks, science classes. So most subject areas I'm aware of have both, again, an online text, which is exactly the same as the paper text, and students have a choice. They can use either. And again, many students choose just what works for them.
Anything further? Mr. Young, I hope it's on the budget. We're getting a little far afield into how they operate, and that's not our business.
Bob Young, Precinct 3. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just want to try to understand the, looking for the Director of HR. Is it possible to ask what that salary would be, base salary?
The HR director for the schools?
I believe there was a comment in there about that. Yes, sir.
Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Young, we are moving from a part-time shared position with the town to a full-time position for both town and schools because of the workload and the turnover and the number of employees. Haven't hired the person yet, so I don't know the exact salary. That salary would be in our 12-month, I believe, our administrative association, so I can bring that salary scale. I'm just not sure where that person would fall in the salary scale.
So what the salary scale is what then, sir?
Mr. Moderator, I don't have the salary scale memorized, but I can certainly bring it on Wednesday. I think there's a range, and I think there are 6 steps to that salary scale, and I think it tops out at about 130.
Okay. We had comments earlier tonight about the legal services that we get. Those are from outside resources. Was there any consideration to augment the resource that you use now for HR and use an outside resource, something like what we have for the legal department?
Dr. Conti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We have an HR attorney already. What was missing for us was a lot of the paperwork and follow-up that needed to be done internally wasn't legal human resource work. And again, we have a human resource attorney already for schools.
Okay, so you have you use an outside resource for HR, but you're talking about hiring someone internally for another part of HR.
Through the moderator, Mr. Young, I apologize, I'm not being clear. We use an outside resource for human resource for any legal work that we have done in human resources. We have a human resource attorney. We also have a firm that we use for student services, which is a whole different branch of law. We need the full-time HR person for the internal workings of the human resources, the paperwork, there's training, there's employee assistance, all the internal workings of what happens when we hire someone and transition someone. We're seeing much more transitioning, and I'm not sure if the town is seeing more transition, but we're seeing much more mobility in our workforce, and that requires much more internal human resource work. We need both. We need the external legal support, but we also need the internal human resource support as well, Mr. Young.
Okay, so just last question on this, a clarification. I understand, I believe what you're saying. You want someone internally to be part of the town and, you know, work for you directly in your department. Although, is it possible that those skill sets and what's required could be purchased from private companies, and we would have a consultant like we have with our legal department for the town side, say?
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Young, I believe there are HR companies that we could contract with. I have not explored that. What we're looking to do is expand the part-time service that we already have internally and make that a full-time person, just because there are days when we don't have an HR person within the school district, and it's much more efficient for us to take care of those things every day. We're seeing much more activity for our human resources. So I haven't explored whether there's a contracted service that would fulfill what we need.
Okay, well, I appreciate your responses. I hope this was informative for everybody. Thank you.
Not really. Anything further? Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Betsy Hughes. I'm Precinct 7. So my question is about have we anticipated and where do we budget for potential legal expenses? As you know, there have been some complaints filed as a result of that survey, and I am concerned that if this should end up in litigation, that it could be very costly for the town. And so I'm just wondering how that kind of thing is handled within the schools. Thank you.
Dr. Conti, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ms. Hughes, we look at sort of past patterns of legal expenses is how we would look to budget it. And like Mr. Denizio said, we would look at the hours that we're utilizing. If it's a contract year for us where we have labor council bargaining contracts, we would look at prior bargaining years to make sure we're looking at like years, and we try to budget for those legal services. For any particular incident that you're talking about or potential case that was unexpected, it could be an in-house, it could be handled on the school side. It also could be the town has insurance and would cover the legal costs for a particular situation. So it really would depend on the situation where the legal support would come from. So again, we use our Student Services Council, we use our Human Resource Council, and there's sometimes when we use the town's Insurance Council.
Anything further on the school budget? Seeing nothing, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? School budget passes. Marina, I know it's 9 o'clock, but let's see if we can get through the operating budget first before we take our break. Shawsheen, assessment, $3,069,215, 9.59% increase. Page 84 in your book. Who had a question on this? Mr. Morey.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bruce Morey, Precinct 1. Question for maybe John, or I don't know who's left. Is this increase based on number of enrollees or increase in cost of the program, or both?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm not sure if we have the folks from Shawsheen here, but let them come down and answer, but it will be both.
Tony McIntosh, Superintendent Director, Shawsheen Valley Technical School. The short answer is both, but if you look at the required minimum contributions in the regional formula, Burlington's percentage went up almost 6%. And again, that's based on the state's calculation and what they look at the town's capacity to pay. So when you look at that percentage, about 2/3 of it was an adjustment in the state formula, and about 1/3 of it was an increase in the cost for programs.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Just a recommendation maybe to John or the finance folks, if they could put that in there as part of the summary. I asked it every year. I see the increases, and I have no issue with that. Just trying to explain what the increase is. Thank you for clarifying that it's both programmatic and community-based. Numbers-based and program-based. So if we could just add that in the future, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Any further questions on the Shawsheen budget? Seeing none, we'll put this to a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? Budget passes. Okay. Essex Tech, $62,000, a decrease of 45.02%. Someone had a question on this. Mr. Rutfield.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alex Rutfield, Precinct 5. Just wondering, at the risk of looking like a gift horse in the mouth, why the sudden drop down by 45%?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So what we're budgeting for this year is for 2 students. We currently have 1 student that will still be going through the grades up there, and we have 1 that had been accepted last year, which is what we typically do. And last year we had a couple students there and a couple that were accepted but didn't wind up going there. So we adjusted the following year for both the students that we know are there and then the students that could be going there. What happens is the timing of Chapter 74 programs doesn't line up perfectly with our budget season. We don't know till after our budget books are mailed how many kids were even accepted to a program, and then we won't know until likely the fall about whether they've actually chosen to go there or not.
Further questions on this? Okay, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next, held budget. Council on Aging. $519,974, an increase in 11.14%. Who had a question on this? Mr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I was curious and have an explanation of this looks to be one of the higher increases that we've seen tonight. I'd like to have more of a clarification.
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll start and see if I can help with that, and we have Marge here in case I can't. But I think part of it is the increase is really due to adding a staff, and it's a part-time staff. And I think when we were talking about my awesome scale that was up there that had positions on it, one of the positions was a part-time 19-hour-a-week person to do more outreach for seniors at the senior center. And because that this budget isn't huge, when you're adding any staff into it, it's going to go over the guideline. Absent that staff addition, they would be under the guideline.
Thank you, Mr. Denizio. Anything further on this? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That budget passes. What else do we have? Negotiated settlements. $1,100,000, an increase of 2,699%. Just a little bump. Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. What happened?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this is a timing thing, Mr. Woods. So you heard me mention a few times that all of our contracts end at the end of this year on June 30th. So what we do, this is our mechanism to budget for any contract settlements that we're going to have, rather than put them into each of the department's budget for the new contract amount. We budget into one place called negotiated settlements, and then every 3 years it looks like a massive increase. But then what we do is, as we settle the contracts, so when we get to Articles 17, 18, and 19, we'll be approving contracts, and that will transfer money from negotiated settlements into each of the departments. It's basically our mechanism to account for those contracts that haven't been settled, so we know that we're still under the guideline and we have accounted for those. So it will move from that line into each of the departments, and then that line next year will be much smaller for the starting point.
Anything further? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Negotiated settlements passes. The last one, technology infrastructure refresh. It's on page 116 of your budget book. $700,000, a 75% increase. Who held it? Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Woods, Precinct 7. I just wanted to get a more detailed explanation as to the increase. Thank you.
Mr. Denizio.
Sure, thank you. So this line is where we capture the technology improvement lease. We were here in January asking for authorization to do a 5-year contract. We need town meeting's approval to do contracts of over 3 years. So we did that early so that it would allow the tech team to use that 5 years as a tool when they were negotiating the final price of this project. So this would cover 1 year of the costs of that $3.5 million. It would be $700,000 a year for 5 years, $3.5 million. You'll hear a little bit more in one of our warrant articles coming up for another piece of it. But what used to happen is this used to cost about $2 million. Last time we were here 5 years ago, it was $2 million. And the big changes are really 4 things. We don't typically, how we got from $2 million to the $3.5 million over that time. There's really 4 items that cause that. We don't typically replace all of the phones. However, our phone system is coming to end of life. So we would only do a quarter or certainly less than half of the phones each of this time, so that adds a significant amount to it. There's the inflationary factor. We bought this, last time we purchased this stuff, it was I'm sorry, 5 years ago. I think everybody knows what's happened to costs over the last 5 years. Another piece is data centers that are virtual. There's 3 new data centers that didn't used to be part of this project, but what we're trying to do is lump all of that stuff into this project so everything becomes part of the refresh plan and we plan accordingly for technology. And the last is the only improvement that we're doing in this is to I have it on there. It's called, the acronym is SOC, but I think it's Security Operational Center. Yeah. So that's the 24/7 monitoring of our network. This is a huge win for us in cybersecurity. Everybody knows how sophisticated they've become and how often we get them just in our private life. Well, being a municipality, we're a target for them way more than that. So this is to pay someone that monitors the traffic on our network, looking for any intrusion detection, anything like that, and notifies us right away. So if something happens on the weekend, the middle of the night, and before someone might get an alert on their phone or find out the next morning, we're getting a call right away. So that was a big improvement that we put into this plan. So really, there's 4 factors that have basically taken it from what used to be an annual $400,000 to a $700,000.
Mr. Webb.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dave Webb, Precinct 7. So following up on the cybersecurity thing, the town also apparently pays insurance for a cyber attack or something. How does that compare in terms of the cost? So that's kind of a different aspect of the cyber control, and that's one question. The other question I have is, has the town had a problem in recent years with cybersecurity?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So a couple points. I had neglected to point out that the ISAC committee was heavily involved in this, in vetting this whole project, and that Ways and Means had a couple of meetings on it too. I should have pointed that out. But to those 2 questions, yes, we do have cybersecurity insurance, but that is going to cover, a certain amount of money should we ever have an event. We haven't had one yet that was actually cyber attack related, but we don't usually say that out loud so that we don't give it any bad juju.
Thank you very much. That's good.
Anything further? We have a question online from David. Mr. Miller.
Yes, I'm Dave Miller, Precinct 4, and a member of the Information Systems and Security Advisory Committee, ISAC Committee. And on April 8th, we held an executive session to review these refresh plans. And we, based on the discussion, our committee voted 6-0-0 on a statement reading, recognizing that certain details of the plans are still in flux, the committee finds the refresh proposal to be well thought out and technically sound. with significant benefits to this town. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anything further? Yes, sir.
Anthony Clark, Precinct 6. Now with the system becoming, going towards SOC and becoming SOC compliant, has there any, what is the timeline and budget for the eventual audit that will need to happen for SOC compliance?
Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I believe we're talking about two different things. The SOC is the acronym that stands for Security Operations Center, and not SOC, the regulation for audit compliance. Two different things.
Thank you for the clarification.
Anything else? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That completes our operating budget. Congratulations. The town can work next year. Okay, I promised Myrna a minute, so let's take a couple minutes to stretch, but only a couple minutes, please.